get started. Perfect. So happy Friday. Welcome to our first ever Logistics SIG open forum. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, you can see my screen. Okay, so warm welcome to all of you. I am going to cover a little bit about what the Logistics SIG does, as well as some housekeeping rules for this particular forum. And then we'll get a chance to introduce the office manager as well as the Logistics SIG team in the first session. So first of all, our mission is really we're a community of practice which fosters collaboration, knowledge sharing of best practices, and we also aim to be a relevant industry resource to education and SMEs. Okay, so it's all about upskilling and giving you all the relevant information to be a better supply chain professional in this exciting times that we're in. Some housekeeping rules. You know, this is a recorded session. You may post your questions in the chat. Anna, the office manager, will be curating and then sharing the questions at the official Q&A at the end. I do encourage all the audience to mute your microphones, and then so that we can hear all the panel, the panel discussion, and then so that we don't have any distractions as well. Okay, so first of all, I guess we'll start with some introductions. Just a quick one from Anna, and then we'll go alphabetically for the panelists, the people who are in the Logistics SIG team. So maybe I'll start with Anna if you haven't met her before. Go ahead, Anna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna. I'm the office manager. I'm the one that communicates with everybody. I'm the one that is helping with the social media and marketing in general. And I joined the chapter almost a year ago, and I'm happy to support the San Diego chapter.
Fantastic, thank you. And for all those who don't know, Anna is kind of not in San Diego, right? Yeah.
Correct. I'm able to support the San Diego chapter from Chicago.
Absolutely. Okay, now let us move towards the panel. We'll start with A. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. I was thinking alphabetical order of the last name or the first name.
First name.
Okay, good. Well, my name is Alejandra Gomez. I joined the chapter and the SIG team very recently, maybe 4 months ago. I'm a transformation supply chain leader with 20 plus years of experience. I've been in end-to-end supply chain transformation journeys in planning, distribution and logistics, and customer centricity as well, in life science, biotechnology, and medical devices companies. My interest is really in development and talent acceleration, and that's why ASEM and the SIG group really interest me, and I'm excited to be here and present and be part of the discussion and the learning that we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra. Who's next? Should be.
Yes, I am the next day, huh?
Sorry, this would be more the for the panel.
The panel. Okay.
The panel. Sorry about that. I should have been clearer. Yeah. Okay. So, is it Carlos?
I think Farida. Oh, I can go.
Yeah, by first name. We're going alphabetical by
first name.
Okay, yeah, all right. So my name is Carlos Paternina. I'm a faculty member at San Diego State University. Before that, I was also a faculty member at the University in Colombia, South America, and an entrepreneur in several endeavors. IT in supply chain is one of them. But also I was in biodiesel manufacturing and in food and beverages. So to that end, I am heavily oriented towards AI applications and data-driven applications, and that's what I'm going to try to propel today.
Fantastic. Carmen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carmen Wu. In my professional job, I lead the logistics excellence team in a medical device company. Previous to that, I've worked in renewable energy and electronics manufacturing industries as well. Currently in the logistics SIG team, I'm one of the co-chairs with actually TAC here. I believe the SIG, this particular special interest group, has been around for about maybe 2 to 3 years at this point. So looking forward to bringing all of these hopefully educational events to the community.
Fantastic. It's Farida next.
Yep. So hi, everyone. My name is Farida Elkato Ancona. Some of you guys just see the Elkato, but now you see the Ancona. So, but I have been in supply chain for 16 plus years now. Been working for consumer packaged goods companies and biotech chemical companies. So most recently, I've been leading a lot of demand planning and resilience topics, and including the business continuity initiatives. So this will be interesting to plug it into today's discussions. My work really helps organization recover quickly from disruptions and for planning scenarios as well. My breadth of experience all intend in supply chain, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion. So.
Thank you, Farida. And then for myself, I am Tak Wei Ong. I am co-chair with Carmen for the logistics SIG. I've been doing this for a couple of years. My day job, I do continuous improvement at Lytix Inc., which is a video telematics company in San Diego. And then I also teach 3 certification courses at ASCM San Diego, and then I'm also starting some teaching in more higher ed at community colleges. So welcome all of you. Let me just cover give you a session overview, and then what's in it for you, right? What are you gonna get today? So what we're trying to do is share best practices on a current topic of interest. So today there will be 2 topics by 2 case studies, right? And you'll see that. And then at the end will be some practical takeaways, right? Where you'll see some applications of these, what is mentioned in the case study by the panelists as well. And then before that, and then after that, we'll open up to Q&A at the end. So without further ado, let me just tee up Alejandra for the next case study. Okay, take it away, Alejandra.
Thank you, Tak. Well, for this case study, I was looking for something, as Tak mentioned, we want something relevant. What about disruptions? We're hearing disruptions all the time. It's our way of living in supply chain. We thought that after COVID, we may not have major disruptions, but the reality is that no, it's a constant. So we need to be ready. So I found this very interesting and recent case of the cyber attack disruption to the food distribution that we may have heard in the news because it was quite recently, back in June. So everything started in June. In the next slide, we will see that in June, the United Natural Foods Inc., UNFI, was attacked. It's a major distributor for more than 300 retailers, 300,000, retailers, including Whole Foods. Whole Foods is one of the major ones that we can relate, but I saw that probably Amazon and Target were also impacted through this. Was hit by a cyber attack. This disabled all IT, logistics, and order management systems. The shipments, in one moment, the shipments were halted, the shelves were empty because the company needed to put all down in a minute. And of course, the customer trust was at risk, impacting US and Canada. The incident is not totally weighed what was the financial impact yet, but it's calculated that around 400 million could be the impact in sales in this year. So the task that was required, a challenge, was how to restore operations quickly, immediately, as soon as possible, but at the same time, to minimize the impact, the shortages. Remember, the shelves were empty. Consumers were going to the shops, seeing empty shelves, and we knew after COVID that after this, the panic in the demand and the consumers went up, and they started to go around the stores and empty the shelves. So it was a snowball effect of these impacts. They need to protect the relationships with the retailers, but also start reestablishing the service. So several actions that probably you will relate to your companies, not exactly probably cyber attacks, but situations where you need to reestablish the service quick. First thing is the famous war rooms. Those war rooms where really these cross-functional crisis teams are coming together, logistics, IT operations, on which were the actions that are required in a very time-sensitive environment. All the activation of the manual processes, because think about you don't have any system working, you need to go back to your Excel, to your piece of paper, to your processes, how we're going to do the order entry, the inventory, how you are going to do the routing. All these things that in this particular environment was chaotic, no systems at all, but go back to the manual. How the engagement of the alternative suppliers and distribution channels, because they need to find out different ways to do this for the critical flows. And of course, the restoration is required, but by phases, because you cannot put in risk the stability or even other attacks. So you need to have like a balance of speed, stability, and safety. And of course, the communication with the customers, with the retailers, with the news, that is just temporary and the situation is under control of the company. So these are some of the actions that this company took. And as a result, well, that of course, in less than a month, the distribution was gradually resumed. The prevention of prolonged shortages, because the message was like, yes, we have a problem, but we're going to fix this. It will be temporary, but we don't know exactly when and how this is going to be back. But by the end of the month, whole distribution was restored. However, not exactly the inventory. The inventory was still in the pipeline. You know how this could take longer than just the distribution. And the time to recovery came like as a true benchmark of this type of resiliency. And it's not one metric. We will see later that it's not one metric that you can measure the time to recovery. It's not just an objective number. So we're going to discuss this later, how you measure this recovery and resiliency. Some lessons learned, of course, the necessity to have manual fallback capabilities. We rely so much on technology and AI, as Carlos mentioned, AI is coming, everything should be automated, fast AI, but we still need to have, what if we require to go back to the manual, to the paper or to the Excel, or what will be our alternatives? The cyber risk needs to be embedded in planning and resilience playbook. Cannot be like something apart from this, and needs to be involving suppliers. It's not internal anymore. We need to involve our 3PLs, our transportations, even our customers, external to the company, not just an internal effort. And of course, this proactive communication, that how we're going to manage the communication along these stakeholders is critical. So with that said, again, we have some questions for you that attack will come, but think about probably not exactly cyber attack, similar situations that you have lived in your day-to-day jobs that can relate on how we should be reacting to this and what we can learn from this, because as I mentioned, it's not going away in any moment. We're going to live this constantly, what we can learn from this type of cases and how we can really start doing some prevention and resiliency, how we can move forward to this, because the reality is that this is coming, continuously coming, how as professionals, supply chain, we can really be prepared in these case situations. So, Tak, I know that we want to talk some questions, but we're not going to go through all of it, right? You are on mute.
Okay. Yes, we're not going to go through all the questions, but I think I'll pick a few. And
Yes.
so I think the first one would be Alejandra, right? If you're looking at in a cyber attack or a cyber disruption at your own company, if it were to hit your company, right? This is the second question, like which benchmarks, right, in terms of these three, let's say, there could be more than these three, best measure resilience in the logistics operations and help the audience understand from the perspective of your company, how would you approach it?
I will relate to Thermo Fisher Scientific, where was not completely a cyber attack as itself, but we have some disruption safety issues with our upgrade of systems, that our systems were down. And the immediate was how we can restore, how we can continue our operations in a manual mode for several days. And to your point, the one that was on top of mind is the downtime. How fast we can recover, because the downtime is equal to revenue that we are not doing. Yes, indeed, that is one thing that was on top of leadership. However, the other thing that we were not so good measuring was the customer sentiment. This customer sentiment, how you measure this sentiment of the customer starting to place bigger orders, duplicate orders in our cases, because they want to start restocking their inventories. So that was a risk for us as well, because we were receiving false signals, false demand that were not clear. So that other element that we were not completely prepared, we're more thinking about how fast we can start the operations again, but also how we can work with the customers to ensure that they will have their stock, that by submitting several orders is not going to be faster for them, on the contrary. So that requires another war room, particularly talking with the customers, that ensuring we have your order, you will be in this order, we're going to communicate with you, you don't need to overflow the system, because on the contrary, could be different. So those were the two things that we did in that moment to support our crisis.
Excellent. So you have to go back a bit old school, right, to kind of make sure that you can recover. So the next question, thank you for that, Alejandra. So the next question is for Carmen. And so you're at Dexcom, and in your particular role, this particular question, as it relates to your role in your company, what best practices and manual workarounds can be built into sort of your contingency playbooks?
Yeah, so from a distribution perspective, one thing that I could specifically call out is to make sure that all of the distribution points from locations can ship to anywhere in the world. I think that's one action that could be done as a preventative, measure. If there's one site or one country that's down, you can immediately turn on another country to support another region. So that's one. And then if you look at within a specific warehouse or a specific logistics function, one of the things that I think will be pretty effective is the idea of this one workforce process or one workforce development. So what that means is, regardless of what team you're on, you can jump to another team and be just as effective. So that requires us to really understand all the roles and then have a massive cross-training plan across all the different levels within the warehouse. So So that's another like preventative as well, to make sure that, you know, whether it's this type of issue, or you have another disruption, like if COVID, right, happens and some people get sick and they can't come to work, right? So those are the two that comes to my mind.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So cross-training, building a sort of a more holistic skill set. Thank you so much, Carmen. Just in 1 or 2 minutes, just want to give Carlos or Farida, just one of you, the opportunity. Anything you want to add to this particular case study in terms of your experience as well?
You want to go, Farida?
Sure, I just to touch on how this tied in with the work I've been doing. So one important thing to do is a business impact analysis, reviewing your current environment within your organization and understanding the maturity levels, right? So you identify, by doing that exercise, you identify your potential gaps, and then understanding your execution gaps, your continuity risks, where they lie, and then getting the group together, you know, kind of in, again, like tying it into that one mindset that Carmen was talking about troubleshooting, coming up with kind of plans, game plans, like having a crisis team that also plugs into a more broader team, and having sort of like a business continuity plan and sessions that take place quite often, so that, you know, you don't kind of get rusty on what you need to do. So having a team in place, the team understanding what needs to be done when, you know, the execution actually needs to happen, if there is an IT or cybersecurity actual breach, and having, you know, quarterly reviews of just like tabletop exercises. So like other things are like digital twin copies of the current environment that a company might be working in, and so trying to mimic that maybe in a more manual way, you know, if a digital twin environment is not possible. So that's just my plug into that. But
Thank you. Thank you so much, Farida. So now for the audience, these takeaways, they will be the case studies. You'll be able to download them in PDF from our website after our meeting in probably a couple of days. So don't worry about not taking the notes here. You will have them. Let's just move to the next case study, which is epidemic disruption. And I'm going to tee it up for Carlos right now. Carlos, go ahead.
Thank you, Tech, and welcome everybody. I'm just going to talk about a case that I worked on. I had this question from Tech about how this idea came from, and this is something that I did back when I was in Colombia. I came in 2021 to the US, but I was asked or tasked by the state where I lived. They have given me funds for doing research for a different activity on the logistics industry. And then at that time, everything stopped. So they told me, hey, we need your help. We can redirect the money that we have given you to make something that could help us cause some impact, positive impact in both operations for logistic distributors, as well as the population at large, in this case, the drivers that we were managing. So what we did is, and you can move ahead one slide, please. During COVID, hardware product distributors, and I cannot disclose the name. I was based in Barranquilla, Colombia, when they were facing a lot of disruptions at the operational level. Mainly, they had no drivers. We in Colombia had the opposite problem as the US in terms of there's so-called a shortage of drivers here. Colombia had the opposite in regular times. There's a lot of drivers there, as there are not many more well-paid jobs for for the population that doesn't have an education. Let's call it that way, higher education. So many of them come to the driving industry. So the point is, because of population shifts in demographics, roughly 62% of the drivers' population in the country at that time was people over the age of 55. So that comes into a problem when you talk to, okay, now Colombia was one of the most aggressive countries in managing shelter at home policies. So if you have more than 55, you are sick, if you have a precondition of many of the things that actually would trigger this kind of problems and make COVID more of a liability for you or of a problem, illness problem for you, then you're gonna have to shelter at home. So that with that came also a liability problem for companies. If I hire a driver and then that driver, let's say we have a fatality in the job because that driver acquired COVID, it got contagious with COVID during the operation, then because it was declared a public health issue and it was declared also as a labor condition, then the company would have been liable at that time. So the most rapid reaction from industry is we're not going to hire drivers above 55 or with problems of health. And then that came with another problem. A lot of the operations were disrupted, not just for this company, but for many of the transportation carriers that we had at the time. So we chose to work with the carrier that had more close relationship with the distribution of food supplies. But then we chose a more controlled food supplies for schools, public schools. But then we chose from them a more controllable problem to manage, which was they were also distributing to hardware stores several products. And then two of their main companies that supply that were located 1 mile away from each other. But the customers were the same. So that was like a more controlled environment for us. And then we started dealing with this operation. At the moment I thought, okay, does everybody else have the same problem? I just gave you a couple of articles here at the time. And this is right here in the United States. So these two sources are from US based problems. So there was not just a regular shortage of drivers at the time, there was an additional shortage of drivers because COVID was making people not willing to go to work or was making people ill and then had to shelter at home forcibly, et cetera, et cetera. So the task was to continue deliveries while safeguarding drivers' health. That was the main deal. Being into the collective mindset of the drivers community, the Teamsters in Colombia are really strong as a union. There's a large operation that they work on in that sense. So that was a task. It was, let's just get drivers back to work because they were losing money and then their family is dependent on them. They're contracted. They're not paid on a regular salary. They work on demand. So to work with them, it was, like that was the main issue here. So our action was, that was my team, we designed a data-driven smart fleet management framework that integrated 4 main things. First, it was, we had to use the data for the pandemic, and then build what we call a risk analysis. So we use the forecast and we use the distribution of what the hospitals were telling us. This is what's going on with people. People that come with these conditions and they get COVID, this is the outcome that we're having. So we localize that information. We use standards from the country, but we also localize it to the region. We categorize drivers into 4 risk levels: low, moderate, severe, or critical. For this, we had a large issue with data privacy. But then it was the only thing that we could do to help the drivers. If you want to work with us, you have to let us know what conditions you have so that we can protect you somehow. And then they agreed. A total of 537 drivers participated in this pilot, in this work. And what we did is we built risk-informed routing optimization. So what we did is we were still going to be efficient, but we were going to try to protect the health of those drivers. Those drivers with no health issues, with in the age of 25 to 30, those drivers were more likely to be assigned to routes which were risky in terms of risk. So in terms of contagion probability. So that means the hotspots in the city that we had been following with the statistics that the city gave us, those routes that were more connected to those hotspots were going to be assigned to lower risk drivers. And the routes that were in a little bit of a higher risk, a lower risk, sorry, were going to be made available for drivers with those kind of conditions. Besides all the protections that we had to put in place, that was the data-driven portion of it was, let's just put those people who are more prone to get conditions on those routes which are less risky for them. Before we put everything on the run, we built Farida was talking about the digital twins, right? So the basis of a digital twin is you have to build a digital world in which you have to make decisions later. In our case, it was a simulation, a big, large-scale simulation of all of the potential routes, all of the potential conditions, all of the 537 drivers, and then we ran that simulation to see what was the lowest expected loss that we can have. Loss in terms of fatalities, loss in terms of liability to the companies, because they were going to have also to be part of this. If they were not interested in being part of this, then we could not work on that. But there were good things that came for them too. The main one was for them, the business continuity. So this company in particular that we work with was able to continue their deliveries with even higher efficiency than they had before, because they were not using optimization, they were not using digital twins, they were not using all of these tools that we were now implementing. There was also something good for this company and for 3 more that work in the pilot later. It was a reputational gain. So carriers actually gain more reputation with drivers. The drivers were telling them, you're protecting us somehow. You're helping us to get back to work in this environment, which, you know, it was bad for everybody. And then it gained that reputation of taking care of the drivers somehow. So more drivers became affiliated with their freight brokerage platform at the time. But in addition, there were the health-related issues. So there was an estimate of how much a fatality costs to a company in the country. We used that estimate to calculate what was going to be if they had more fatalities, more severe cases of absenteeisms in the company. So we were able to explore values such as a reduction in $25,000 per month for this company only in terms of absenteeism costs. And so that you know, if you are affiliated with a company and you get ill, sick in Colombia, the company is still liable for 3/4 of the salary, and the driver has to go for the extra 1/4 to the state. It is a social-based system in that sense, but the company is still liable for that. So we were able to reduce this amount per month in the 7 months that we worked with them. And then the estimated, when I say estimated, is because at the beginning, the company reported 3 fatalities before we started working with them. And then after we started working with them, they reported 0 fatalities. And that was followed until the end of 2022. So we were able to work with them for those 7 months, but then follow up until the end of 2022 in that case. What did we learn is that health, in this case, when there's a pandemic, is a logistics variable as well. It's not just a health issue. It's also something that we have to consider when we manage our workforce. And it's not just, it doesn't run just for transportation, it runs for everything. If you remember, China had this so-called zero COVID policy, right? So in which if you get 1 people infected, everybody else was going to be sent home. And then the port would shut down, the company would shut down. So that is a workforce related issue. It's going to stop the operations as you know it. In this case, we were able to use data to drive the decisions that we will going to be doing. As you see in the image, this is something that I just made for this presentation, but so privacy was protected as we had control of the policy, and they kind of trusted us, the platform, and they kind of trusted us because we were a university, and then so on and so forth. So, but we knew the driver's risks, and each one of those drivers were assigned to the different routes. The second one is the data-driven allocation pays off. So it's not just, you can do route optimization just based on efficiency, but in our case, you can base it on congestion, you can base it on many different things, which are all operational matters of concern. In this case in particular, we use health risk analysis to improve the way we did the routing. Scenario simulation, this digital operation that we built actually paid off because we were able to balance trade-offs. Do you want to, how good do you want to be efficient? How good do you want to protect the health of the drivers? And then when you put those objectives into a balance, that's when you can make better informed decisions. And then that reputational gains that I'm telling you about, it came not by chance. It came just because the drivers knew that they were participating in this pilot and they were purposefully being shown what the risks were. So they knew if they could accept, by the way, because this was a freight brokerage platform, they could bid or just not. So they could still decide not to participate on that specific bid. But they could bid if they believe, okay, I need the money, I need to go work, and I feel well, I think I can handle this low risk route. And then they bid it on it. Tak, you want to follow or do you want me to ask for this?
Yes, actually, same. I will thank you for that, Carlos. Great case study, personal experience as well. I'll be selective. And so the first question is for you, Carlos, is what indicators best measure resilience in epidemic-driven disruptions? Right, there's 3 that is in here. That is that question 2.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So if you ask me about that, I can tell you it depends. It depends on who are you talking about. If you're talking about the company itself, then business continuity key performance metrics would be the ones that I would probably say. How much I cannot deviate from my original targets. So that would be what I would do if I'm from a company, and this works for any given disruption. Like, so if I have this target and then I have to react to whatever happened, then I would go into how can I continue doing business without losing that much money, without having to work on survival mode. That's basically my main opinion. But because I had to see this from different perspectives, from the state point of view, it was more of a, okay, we have people, yeah, we're going to shelter people at home. They're not, maybe they're not going to die of COVID, but then they might die of hunger because they don't have the money to provide for them or their families. So we need that social issue to be solved. So people going back to the workforce, their job being protected, that was what I would probably say from the other end. If you are a company that are a B-type company or a company that is more progressive in management policies, then managing that portion of the participation of the workforce and continuing to work, that will be also of interest to the company. Absenteeism is a problem for all of us. Okay, that's a problem even without disruptions. So imagine with this kind of disruption, what that will mean. So that's also a metric that I would probably follow up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I like the way you kind of balance the business needs as well as the social needs, right, as a business, and how it pays off in terms of the reputation. So Farida, this question is for you, and it will be more on question 4, which is, and I know you mentioned before about business continuity. You talked about digital twin, and I think it kind of it is a very good relation to this simulation. How can simulation modeling be institutionalized in logistics contingency planning? Farida.
Yeah, so I mean, it ties into like all the scenario planning, right? Understanding your gaps and the impact to the business. And so in a way, understanding what your key routes and like the biggest impacts to the business and having backup suppliers, and then maybe focusing on those A, B, C players, I guess, or lanes, and ensuring and like having a simulation plan in the playbooks. Again, also having these tabletop exercises is very beneficial, and visiting the simulation, revisiting it quarterly at the minimum. Having a dedicated team, a crisis management team dedicated to look at these type of scenarios, to have insights from different departments. So this is like an IT issue, right? And this is a operations issue, a resources issue. So this all plays in. It's like a very holistic thing that you need different, when you're forming the crisis team, different departments weighing in and providing their feedback to also play into the business impact analysis. So yeah, those kind of simulations can happen, and also having developers and experts, plugged into that doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. I like when you run enough of the what if scenarios and you're able to use data to kind of help you prioritize, which are the more likely what if scenarios. And you run, it's kind of like why the if you look at military, right? They run simulations before they go to battle, and they should perform better. So thank you so much for that. I'm gonna go. Thank you, Farida. So again, for the audience, these will be in the case study PDF. I'm gonna pause here to open it up to audience question and answer, and wanted to give opportunity for the audience to kind of chime in. So any questions from the audience right now, you may turn on the camera or your microphone, or drop the question in chat. Wait a minute. Okay. If there are no questions, I have follow-up questions, and this one for either for actually all of you on the panel, right? Should resilience performance, example, recovery time continuity, be part of supplier scorecards, and how should clients support them? So this is open to all panelists. Who wants to go first?
Tak, can you rephrase the question? I think.
So in terms of when you're looking at your supplier scorecards, right? Should you look at resilience performance? That means metrics to measure your supplier's resilience. That would be recovery time, continuity, just like how you would do with your own company. You're looking up your supply chain, right? What should that look like from a supplier scorecard? And then how should us as clients, right, support them in terms of best practices, right?
Okay, so just a quick question. I think I'm going to start the discussion mentioning partnership is something that really matters. So you mentioned taking a look at your score cards for your suppliers. I would love to see more the suppliers involved in strong partnerships with my company, and not just be, who provides the items for me. I don't want to just, in terms of, if you're talking about resiliency, it's because a disruption is most likely happening, or it is prone to happen. So from that perspective, my point is, when you put everything into the same planning mode, if you include your sourcing into your planning operation from the very beginning, and you establish the policies that would help them being more integrated, that would help us react better in cases that something happened. Just to bring you an example, when you were talking about a cybersecurity problem, Alejandra was mentioning it. If you have an attack, then technology is affected. When technology is affected, you know, we used to do a lot of things manually 20 years ago. And then, yeah, there was a disruption. We could handle it manually because everything was manual. But nowadays, everything is technology-wise. So having the opportunity to understand that and just pick up the phone and talk to your supplier and say, hey, we're having this issue. We need your collaboration. How can you support us in this case? That's more of a partnership relationship, not just, come on, sell me more. You know, it's something that I would probably say that it can help a lot building that strong relationship as a partner, not just as somebody that sells me something.
So
Absolutely.
I want to add on that point, Carlos.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go
Doug,
ahead.
because you mentioned something relevant. The integration should not be just because we are in crisis mode, because when you're in crisis mode, you should already have developed those relationships, those integrations. You need to know really the integration of the process. So this integration is not in crisis mode, but always in the planning. And that is what end-to-end supply chain means. And when we talk about SIOP or SNOP or IBP, this is in even the maturity scores of the maturity levels of supply chain. You need to achieve this integration from suppliers, even with your customers, that external, not just internal. And that is a journey, definitely it's a journey, because you need to involve them in your planning process, in your 3 to 4 to 5 year plans, but also when you are deciding the quarterly adjustments or the monthly reviews in SIOP. So the companies that had been able to integrate since the beginning, your suppliers, vendors, and your customers are the ones that are in the highest levels of maturity. As I mentioned, it means a journey, and you require the strategies and the process, people, and technology to be able to have an integrated supply chain.
Excellent. Yeah. You want to be prepared before the crisis, right? And so this is where the scenario planning comes in.
Correct.
Absolutely. Any other comments from the other panelists? Want to give some opportunity before I jump to another question?
I just want to call out that when Alejandra and Carlos, when you were talking about partnerships, the first I thought of being in logistics is like the 3PLs, right? Typically, we like, okay, we send you orders, you go ship it, right? We don't really think about them. Be like, okay, hey, like if we have down, you know, in our warehouse, you know, what can you pull up, you know, can help and increase your capacity or whatever it is that we need for them. So that's a really good point. Never really thought about them that way. So that's my takeaway today. So
you brought up an excellent point, Carmen, as well as Carlos and Alejandro. Just on that point, one of the best practices, at least when I teach the CSCP, right, is about collaboration. You're looking at your supply chain as partners, right? Both ends, right? And that is actually scientifically going to give you a better result, right? So while you have all the metrics, all great, but as what Carlos said is that you do need to pick up the call, and sometimes maybe in the Gen Z environment, calling is almost like something prehistoric.
Yeah.
Right. But how else do you build these relationships when you have multi-generations within that workforce for now? Right. So you pick the modality that works the best. And that could mean that, yeah, you could do a little bit of old school. You might fly down to meet them so that the partnership is strong.
Hey, Tag, you just gave me a research topic with, I'm just going to contact right away somebody here from the management department, from the HR type of thing. how to manage disruptions, logistical disruptions with multi-generational, communities in hand. That actually is something very interesting, and I think we don't have it solved. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's most welcome. I would love to help out in that paper or that study as well.
Yep.
So excellent. I think we've got time for just one more question, and it's kind of dovetailing from what Carmen mentioned before, which is, again, for all of you, and even within the audience, let's say, what is one action you can take back to your team to improve readiness? So this is open to everybody, right? This is about a learning session. What is one thing, one action you can take back to your team to improve readiness from what we've covered today? Farida?
So the first thing that comes to mind is communication, like having that environment where folks can feel comfortable to share gaps that they do see, and understanding your environment in terms of, are you in a decentralized, centralized environment? Who are your suppliers? What's your network? Just having that basic understanding and not assuming that everyone has that understanding as well, right? Because even when Carmen mentioned shipping from different nodes in the world, and ensuring that your nodes are, your different distribution points are ready in terms of crisis to ship to any part of the world. Do we know that, does the group that you're working with understand that? Topics like that. Is that ready information across the board? Because that can also lead to an environment where people are duplicating efforts. So communication is key. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And I think that's from my end. That's what I'm good with sharing that.
Thank you, Farida.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Okay, I can give it a shot.
Go ahead.
So one thing, and in piggyback with what Farida just mentioned, I'd love to, that collaboration process, I would love to also include our collaborators in our mitigation strategies planning. So I want them to be part of it. I want to maybe select my 5-10 critical suppliers in terms of cost and service, not just cost, not just volume, also service. And then bring them into this discussion. These are my, as you said, you have to be prepared for anything that could happen. So these are the scenarios that I think could happen from my end. What are your thoughts in this case? What's your take? What can hurt you? What could happen to you that also can hurt the whole operation? And then put all those mitigation strategies into a very well documented group of things that we can do. And I know that when we certify, when we do all of this score modeling, documentation is a big deal. Let's just bring up resiliency into this documentation process, and by that point, we can assess the risk better, we can assess the impacts better, and we can keep everybody informed in, okay, this is what we're going to do when it happens, if it happens.
Fantastic. Yeah, you formalize that process of resilience, and you bring it in, and you give visibility and alignment throughout your supply chain. Absolutely.
I like that point, Carlos, because a lot that reading that I was doing, the playbooks, that these resiliency playbooks, that is not super heavy documentation, but there's something there that this playbook is available. The point that you brought, that do this in collaboration with your key suppliers, is fantastic, because usually we do this internally. Again, internally, we don't care about the customer, we don't care about the supplier. So we need to really involve customer, suppliers, because from our customer could be also impacting us as well. So be extending this, and these playbooks that there exist, we need to train that people know. So when this happens, it's not a panic mode. Like, okay, because usually war rooms and everybody's trying to do their best, throwing ideas like crazy. But we already have a playbook. Something is there. Maybe 80% can be there instead of people trying to scramble their minds. So that is a great point. Have playbooks available, visible, that they know what is there in collaboration with our vendors, suppliers, and even our customers.
Absolutely. This end-to-end approach in terms of resiliency, right? A supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So that's basically a very important best practice. We are at time. So first of all, thank you all for joining. And we'd like your feedback. So a short survey will be sent out soon. And then please also connect with us on LinkedIn through the QR code. So I want to wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us, and have a great long weekend with the Labor Day coming up. So thank you all. We'll see you soon at the next event.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.